Welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. On this podcast, Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, show you how to make as much money as you want in private practice as a nurse coach.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. If you are watching me on video this morning, it's Shelby here, by the way, if that wasn't clear. I have my computer close today because I prefer to kind of wing it on podcast episodes, but for this one, I don't want to get too far off track. I got a lot to say. About goals, about stuff, goals and stuff. That should be the episode title. It's not very friendly for SEO, but it is funny, which I'm not sure which one is more important to me, if I'm honest. But welcome back. It is me here with you today, and we are encroaching on the global phenomenon that happens every year around the holiday season. The new year is close. The marketing in all the ecosystem starts to shift from like sales and holiday sales to the new year, new you vibes, and feel how you want to feel about that. We're not going to really get into that today, but it's kind of undeniable that it's a natural point of reflection in the year. It's the end of the year. People are kind of looking back on like, whoa, 2024 was a weird one. And if you feel me on that, I'm with you. 2024 was a weird one. And it's just a time where things are busy, but most of us are kind of like, having holidays from work, and natural point of reflection. We're spending time with family. We're getting re-triggered, just all the things. It's happening all at the same time. And I kind of have like a little like goofy smile on my face because gosh, just like I don't even have like, it's not weird. It's just a lot happening all at once. And then we get to throw goal setting type stuff, the new year, new you, the what do we want to make 2025? Like we get to do all that as well on top of a turbulent season for some. And I host a goal setting workshop every December for our community. It's our biggest workshop that we host. And a lot of you message me afterwards being like, can I be inspired by this workshop and create it for my own community? And my answer is always yes. So if you guys want to come to that this year, tune in. Would love to have you. And again, I think for our community as well, it's a really natural point of reflection of like, how did this year go? What did I learn? What do I want to call in next year? Not from a place of fear, but from alignment. And we get to have really high quality conversations with people who get it from this holistic lens. And they also get it because we're all personal development junkies, right? Goal setting and fear and intentions and kind of the ritual around this is something I've been obsessed with forever. Like growing up an athlete, it's something that I was conditioned to think about. And then no surprise, here in the coaching world, I do business coaching and we're pretty hyper-focused on goals, right? We make all of our clients fill out a goal sheet every month. Okay, we don't make them. We highly encourage they fill it out every month. And I'm a firm believer, and I know based in science that like if you write down goals, they are more likely to happen by like 42%. That is, even if you got a 10% edge of like writing your goals on paper, why the F not? Like it doesn't make any sense not to, So I just love the science behind goals, why we get in the way of our own goal settings, how we upper limit, how we can only dream so big and then it kind of like taps out and we don't know where to go next, or we accomplish the goal and then we don't know what to do with our life after. All of these things, the intrinsic, the extrinsic motivation, the where we get our sense of empowerment, the subconscious beliefs that get in the way or trip us up, the resistance to goals that we set. It's all very fascinating to me. And you guys listening to this have probably heard what a SMART goal is. I'm not going to like bore you to death with like how to set a SMART goal with your clients. You don't need me to do that with you necessarily. However, there are really little nuances that I've learned along the way from my own personal work and with coaching literally hundreds and hundreds of people, of nurse coaches, of people like you listening to this podcast right now. I'm very familiar with how our brain works. We all share like a nurse brain consciousness. And then on top of that, we get to layer like this nurse coach brain consciousness. And I know it really, really well after spending time with so many of you for an extended period of time. So I want to loop you in on some things that I've learned over the years. Hopefully you can bring these into your practice or maybe even into your own goal setting practice, to be honest. And yeah, I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see what you guys think of this, or if you feel like I missed missed a big one. But I got 4 things to cover with you today. And first one being is that you, and I know this because I did this, but you are likely overestimating your client's ability to think something all the way through, to think a goal all the way through. And I noticed this. I still have a little bit of a blind spot for this too in my coaching, to where we'll talk about a thing and a client will come up with a goal, and it's edgy, it's fun, it's tantalizing, it's exciting. We're both jazzed up and I'm like, "Okay, let me know how it goes." And there's no plan. There's no do this next. There's no breaking that goal down into small, manageable chunks. It's just like, "Okay, I'll talk to you next week. We spoke this goal out into the ethers." It's so important to break it down, team. It's so critical to break it down. It's not sexy. It's not. It's just not sexy to make a SMART goal, but it is important. It is important to break down bigger dreams and visions into smaller manageable steps, and then breaking down those smaller manageable steps into SMART goals. It's like a 3-part thing, a 3-part step. And even if you don't do this on the call per se, this can be great homework of, all right, I hear you. You want to email this organization. Go do these things first. Is there anything, any system that we need before this? Do you have email? Do you have a website? Do you have this? Like, there might be some steps that we need to fill in before we email that big wig organization over there to set you up. That's not advice we give to most people, so please don't take that advice if you're a new coach. Please, pinky promise. That's just the one that came to mind. But break it down. Break it down. So what would be another way to break this down? I had a client once that was really overwhelmed and anxious, very busy, professional lady. This was in the beginning of my practice. And during the call, I was like, "Okay, well, what has you overwhelmed specifically?" Right? Like, not just describe to me the feelings of overwhelm. What are the tangible things in your life that are overwhelming to you? And she, named some things at work. She named some things within her marriage. And then she was like, but what's really like taking up a lot of bandwidth for me is these wedding thank you notes that I need to send. But she invited like 300 people to her wedding. And she's like, the mountain is so big. Like, it just feels like I can't even do it. I was like, "Okay, how can we break down? When do you want to get that done by?" And she's like, "I'd prefer to get it done in the next 3 months." I was like, "Okay, great. How many thank you notes do we have to write every day for you to get it done in the next 90 days? And it's like 3 a day. It's like, "Okay, perfect. Can you also ask your husband to help you write these, to where like he takes it one week and you take the next, or you do 2, he does 1, or he does 2 and you do 1? Like, how can we make this even more manageable?" And that's a really tangible way to break it down. But coaching around overwhelm, we can get stuck in like maybe the somatics of it all or the feelings of it all. And, sometimes we just like have to check that box on the list to help move some stuff off your plate. And slowing it down, being curious, breaking it down, asking seemingly simple questions is really helpful here. And you don't have to treat people like they're 5, but I also want to point out that people don't have your framework, they don't have your brain, they don't have your knowledge, they don't have your experience when it comes to goal execution, to personal development, to self-awareness. You are literally talking to, it is likely that you are literally talking to someone who is a baby in all of those areas, in their own goal setting, in their own self-awareness, in their own personal development, in their own recognition of where they trip up or self-sabotage or any of those things. So it is important to really remember that. Kind of like if you're working with a new grad on the floor and you're precepting, you don't have to talk to them like they're 5 years old, but you need to remember that they are new. They are a blank slate and they kind of don't know anything yet. And we are walking alongside them, filling in the gaps with them as they go. A lot of times nurse coaches that are into functional medicine skip over like the functional medicine 101 kind of stuff because they're like, everybody knows this. And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. For one, I didn't know that about menopause or perimenopause, because you are obsessed or really into perimenopause. You know a ton about perimenopause, and the world doesn't. Even women don't know a lot about perimenopause. So starting at square one, the genuine square one, not where you want to start, not with your own agenda, but the genuine square one with people can be really helpful and really powerful and impactful. So yeah, just wanted to mention that too. Little reminder. People are not dumb. They are just new. If your client, so second thing to set better goals with your clients is if your client is asking you for daily accountability, something has gone wrong and fireworks in the worst way should be going off in your brain and all the red flags of like, nope, 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 nope. Don't do this with people. It sets you up for the drama triangle. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, whip out your phone right now and Google it so you can look at it on the screen. But the drama triangle is a interpersonal dynamic. It's a psychological concept that was born in the 70s or the 80s. And you have the hero, aka the coach, you have the victim, aka the client, and you have the perpetrator or the villain on the third corner of this triangle. And we have to be so careful as coaches to empower our client, to keep them out of victim mode, but most importantly, to keep you out of hero mode. And nurses that are coaches, we love to be the hero. Nurses get to be the hero a lot whenever like we work more traditional jobs, right? We're bedside, we're literally bringing people back to life in the most extreme example. And in coaching, that is not your role. It is not your role to give advice. It is not your role to have the solution or the answer. And if you notice that you're giving a lot of advice, you're giving a lot of solutions, you're coming up with the SMART goals and the plans, you're likely in hero role and your client is in victim. And this is fine until something goes wrong and they start pointing the finger at you. It's your fault. You told me to do this. I didn't want to do this and you never even asked me and blah, 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 blah. Like the finger pointing guns come out and they say, this is your fault. And it reaffirms their role in victim and it reaffirms your role as the fallen hero, right? Because now you're the villain. It's sticky, team. And if your client is asking you for daily accountability, pause, transparency check here. You need to set an agreement immediately that has your client take more self-responsibility. And it can look like this of like, hey, we don't have to like be a dick about this, but I think that like calling it out very soon is helpful because often when clients are in victim mode, it's subconscious and they're not aware of it. And that's totally cool, right? No big deal. Nothing's gone wrong. But saying something like, hey, usually when people are asking me for daily accountability, we're missing a piece of the puzzle here because I can't do the work for you. And our goal of coaching sessions is to equip you enough to take action between sessions and on your own. Doesn't mean you can't ask me questions. It doesn't mean that you can't get stuck. It doesn't mean that you can't fail. But if I'm having to check in with you every day, if you've done the thing, I am your mom and not your coach. Does that make sense to you? And like opening up the dialogue around that and even explaining to them of like, this dynamic usually doesn't work long term. Because then if you don't do the thing and I don't check in with you, then it becomes like a blame game and I don't want to play that game with you. So how can we step in and how can we come up with a plan for you to be in the driver's seat, for you to be in control and you to be 100% accountable for all of your actions, good or bad? And having that kind of conversation empowers people to be more intrinsically motivated versus like they know you're going to text them tomorrow and that's why they did the thing. I do say things to my clients that I notice are struggling to follow through and to execute of like, hey, if you haven't done anything by Friday, loop me in. Let me know. Something has gone wrong if you haven't done anything by Friday. It's kind of been my favorite phrase lately on calls. Gives them a benchmark to like check in with themselves. And it empowers them to take action faster. If we're talking on a Tuesday and if you haven't done anything by Friday, let me know. Something has gone wrong. That's too long for you to be taking to execute on these like 3 simple tasks. So all of which would maybe take you 45 minutes. That's some alternative language for you there. Oh, also in this category team, if you have put yourself in the hero role and you have given advice without seeking permission first, take responsibility for that. Be like, hey, I know that the coaching conversation so far, I've been doing a lot of educating and I've given you a lot of advice. And I want to begin to transition into less of that. I want to become more curious about you and where you're at And I'm really interested to know how you would solve this problem. You know you better than I can ever know you. So let's leverage that. Let's use that as a tool together. I find is really helpful too. All right. Third point here. What is the next right step? The next right step. I work with a lot of big dreamers. I'm also a big unhinged dreamer myself. And I work with people who have very big visions for the world that like really want to be disruptors and change the way big systems are structured. And it is because I get so excited about that, sometimes I can get lost in the pace of where my client's brain and heart is at versus like, yes, that dream is so beautiful and so powerful, and I'm 100% behind you. You can 1000% do this. What is the next right step? If we're going to go like change healthcare, what is the next? If we're going to go change healthcare, what is the next right thing? And the next right thing is never, I'm going to go sell my group program to the hospital, or I'm going to go sign 5 one-on-one clients, or I'm going to email the mayor and propose nurse coaching for the homeless. Like, that's never the next right step. The next right step is usually really small and again, not sexy. And like, I need to set up my email for my business, or I need to go for a walk and then go have a conversation with my husband and tell him about this and ask him to do the dishes for me so that I have time and bandwidth to pull this off or to make these moves or to grow this vision. Honestly, almost never is the next right move like the big, sexy crossing the finish line moment, which is where our brain likes to go. It's like in the minutia of the execution of that vision. And so bringing your client like from the visionary work up here in the floaty space and being like, all right, yes, green light, let's do it. What do you need to do today? And that might have to like be broken down of like, all right, what needs to happen within the next 12 months? What needs to happen in the next 6 months so that the 12-month vision happens? What needs to happen in the next 3 so the 6-month vision happens? So in the next 3 months, we need to accomplish X, Y, and Z. What needs to happen right now so that you can do X? And like chunk it down over and over and over again. If you're also a big dreamer, you might struggle with this, but like have people tell you face to face out loud so that they can go take tangible action and start creating momentum like within 24 hours. Don't live in la la land with your client for too long. We can be delulu, we can be delusional, but we got to make it true. We got to make it true, Lulu, to be Dululu, you know? Fourth section here, last point, is something that I skirted around for a while, longer than I would care to admit to you, to be honest. Call people out whenever they're not doing the thing, like directly and honestly and lovingly, not like a shamey, pointing the finger at you kind of way, but like, why aren't you doing the thing, my friend? Like, I used to avoid this because I would feel such shame and guilt whenever I didn't check my box for that week. And I had a hard time showing up to coaching calls with my coach because of it. That was my own personal work. But whenever people are comfortable with that, whenever life is consistently getting in the way or real things get in the way, right? Like it's not always made up resistance or like an I didn't want to. It can often be like my grandpa was in the hospital or my kid broke their arm or my car tire went flat. Like real things happen, right? But when it's week after week after week, I didn't want to add extra shame and guilt. And that was my own BS that I was projecting onto this situation because what I've learned over the years is that people want to be seen and then not doing it. They want to be called out and then not doing it. They're kind of like testing you, right? It's a joke sometimes that being a coach is kind of like being somebody's woke parent to where you're fully online and you can see all of their bullshit, right? They're not able to get through you or by you with an excuse. And for me, I always just assumed that people felt shitty enough that I didn't need to call it out. But what I did need to do was not add shame or guilt, of course, but ask like, hey, I've noticed that we've set this goal like 3 weeks in a row and we haven't moved the needle at all. Can you tell me what's going on? Is there something deeper here that I need to be aware of? Have you thought about this? Has this registered for you? And witnessing people in the non-action is so powerful. It's so powerful. In our feedback forms that we send out to our year-long clients, we ask, what's the one question that your coach isn't asking you right now? Is there something that you want me to be asking you on calls that I'm not asking you? And it's always some version of this, always some version of ask me why I'm scared. Ask me why I'm not doing it. Ask me why I'm playing small. It's some flavor of this question. And it is a part of the process. Nothing has necessarily gone wrong, but you as the coach you got your eyes on the prize, the vision over here, but you also got your eyes on like, why isn't Sally doing the thing? Like we set this goal every week. I'm confused by that. I need some clarity as the coach around that. I don't need to like point my finger and give some cheesy pep talk to Sally. I need to be very curious on what's going on here. Is it because grandpa's in the hospital? Is it an upper limiting problem, subconscious belief? Is it she doesn't think she's good enough and we need to coach around that? Like, what is happening here so that I can better support her in taking forward movement? Very, very important, team. Don't wait as long as I did to learn that lesson. And my ego would come online and be like, I'm not here to babysit people. Like, if you're going to do it, awesome. If you're not going to do it, awesome. And there's a place for that, but don't start there. Don't start there. Start with curiosity and do the thing and do the thing. Whew. All right, team. I hope this was helpful. It was short, sweet, and punchy. But like I said, I've coached a lot of nurse coaches over the past 4 or 5 years. And these are things that I've learned through my own work with goals. And these are things that I've learned working with our community, with almost every single leader that you see in our community has contributed to this list by getting to coach them. And so every high performer, every success story has contributed to this list. And I think this year on goals, I always try to like put a new spin on our goal setting workshop. And so I'm excited to see what comes through, but it's usually a very spiritual space. The one that I like to like sink into and meditate on and really like be a conduit for what our community needs and equip you guys to do more high quality work with your clients as well. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Come find us in the Facebook group, shoot me an email, shoot me a message. I've literally never been more available. So just reach out and we will see you same time, same place next week. Bye, everybody.